Welcome to Soul Spirit Stories, where every heartbeat tells a story that touches the soul. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and unexpected love, then you are in the right place. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming stories that inspire the spirit and heal the heart. Now, let's begin today's story. It was a cold evening in December, the kind that wraps the city in a silver mist and fills the air with the scent of roasted chestnuts and distant laughter. Under the dim glow of a flickering streetlight stood a man, tired, quiet but hopeful. His name was Daniel. Daniel wasn't the kind of man people noticed in a crowd. He wore old sneakers, a faded jacket, and carried a sadness behind his brown eyes. He worked as a night janitor in a local library, a job that paid just enough to keep the lights on in the small apartment he shared with his 10-year-old daughter. Lily was Daniel's whole world. Ever since his wife passed away 5 years ago, Daniel had done everything. Every late shift, every skipped meal, every sacrifice, and just to keep his daughter smiling. That night, after finishing his shift, Daniel sat in the empty break room. He checked his wallet, $10. That was all he had until the next paycheck. He sighed softly. Rent was due in 2 days, the fridge was half empty, and Christmas was only a week away. But there was something else on his mind that night, something unusual for him. He had a date. It wasn't something Daniel usually did. He hadn't been on a date in years, but a coworker had convinced him to try an online dating app. Just one time, they said. You never know. Her name was Grace. They had been messaging for a week. Her words were warm, kind, and real, the kind that made Daniel feel seen again. She worked as a teacher for special needs children, and from her photos, she had the kind of smile that seemed to light up a room. She had agreed to meet him for dinner at a small cafe downtown. Nothing fancy, just cozy. Daniel had planned everything carefully. But when he opened his wallet and saw that single $10 bill staring back at him, reality hit hard. He could cancel the date and save the money for groceries, or he could take a chance on her, on love, on something good for once. He smiled faintly. Lily, he whispered softly, I think your old man's going to take a chance tonight. That morning, before dropping Lily off at her friend's house, she noticed him standing by the mirror, adjusting his old tie, one of the few things he had kept from his wedding day. Daddy, you look handsome, she said with a giggle. Daniel chuckled. You think so? She nodded proudly. She's going to like you, I just know it. Her words stayed with him all day. On his way to the cafe, Daniel stopped by a small flower shop. The air smelled of lilies and roses. He looked around and saw a single white rose, simple, pure, and elegant. How much for that one? He asked the shopkeeper. $10, she said. Daniel hesitated, feeling the weight of the bill in his pocket. He could almost hear Lily's voice. She's going to like you. He smiled weakly and handed over the money. The shopkeeper wrapped the rose gently in white paper and said softly, She's a lucky woman. Daniel just nodded, unsure of what to say. As he walked toward the cafe, snow began to fall, soft, slow flakes that painted the city white. When he arrived, the cafe glowed warmly from inside, with candles flickering on every table and quiet music floating through the air. Daniel's hands trembled slightly as he pushed the door open. He looked around, and there she was, Grace. She was sitting by the window, wearing a red scarf and holding a cup of tea. When she looked up, her smile reached her eyes, calm, kind, genuine. Daniel? She said, standing to greet him. He nodded, smiling nervously. That's me, she laughed softly. It's so nice to finally meet you. He handed her the single white rose. Her eyes softened. It's beautiful, she said, holding it carefully. Thank you. They sat down and the conversation flowed easily. They talked about everything, her students, his daughter, the struggles of being a single parent, and how hard it is to believe in love again when life's been so unkind. Grace listened to him, really listened, not with pity, but with understanding. She told him she admired his strength, how much he loved his daughter, and how rare it was to meet someone so genuine, For the first time in years, Daniel laughed freely. They didn't order much, just 2 cups of tea and a small plate of cookies. Grace insisted on paying, but Daniel shook his head. "It's on me," he said softly, and placed the last of his change on the table. When the evening ended, they walked outside together. The snow had thickened, and the city lights shimmered like stars trapped in crystal. Grace looked at him, her eyes full of warmth. "Daniel," she said gently, "can I tell you something?" "Of course. I didn't tell you before because I didn't want it to change how you saw me." "But I'm blind," Daniel froze. "Blind?" he repeated softly. She nodded. "I lost my vision 3 years ago in an accident. I can see light and shadows, but that's about it. I use an app to read messages, and my sister helped me set up my dating profile." Daniel looked at her, really looked, and then smiled. "Well," he said quietly, "then I'm even more honored you said yes to meeting me." She laughed a little nervously. "You're not surprised?" He shook his head. "No. You see more than most people I know." That made her smile wider than before. They stood there for a long moment, the snow falling gently around them, and then she said something he would never forget. "Do you know why I agreed to meet you, Daniel?" He shook his head. "Because you sounded like someone who still believed in goodness, even when life took everything away." Daniel felt something tighten in his chest, a mix of pain and gratitude. He whispered, "Maybe I still do." Before they said goodbye, she reached out and gently touched his face, tracing the outline of his cheek with her fingers. "You feel like someone kind," she said softly. And for the first time in years, Daniel felt seen, not for his clothes, not for his struggles, but for who he truly was. As he walked home that night, empty pockets but a full heart, he couldn't stop smiling. He looked up at the sky and whispered, "Thank you." When he got home, Lily was waiting by the window. "Daddy, how was your date?" Daniel grinned. "It was perfect." "Did she like the flower?" He smiled, remembering the way Grace held it like something precious. "Yes, sweetheart." "She loved it." Lily clapped her hands. "I told you!" The next morning, Daniel woke up to the sound of his phone buzzing. A message from Grace. "Thank you for the best night I've had in years. You reminded me what hope feels like. Can I see you again?" He replied instantly, "I'd love that." Days turned into weeks. They met again and again, sometimes at the park, sometimes at the library where Daniel worked. He would describe things to her, the color of the trees, the laughter of children, the way the sunset painted the sky, and she would listen with a smile, as if she could see every word he said. One day, Daniel brought Lily to meet her. The little girl instantly took to Grace, asking her endless questions. Grace laughed and answered every single one. After that, the 3 of them began spending weekends together, and at the park, at home, sometimes baking cookies or reading stories aloud. Grace taught Lily how to read Braille. Lily taught Grace how to fold paper cranes. It was simple, beautiful, and real. But then, one evening, Daniel received a letter from the landlord. The rent had gone up. He couldn't afford it. He sat quietly at the kitchen table, holding the letter, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on him again. Grace noticed his silence when she called that night. "What's wrong?" she asked softly. He tried to hide it. "Nothing, just work stuff," but she could hear the sadness in his voice. "Daniel," she said gently, "you don't have to pretend with me." He sighed, finally admitting everything. The rent, the bills, the worry of losing the apartment. There was a pause. Then she said something that broke him a little. "Daniel, can I help?" He shook his head. "No, Grace. You've already given me more than anyone ever has. You gave me hope again." She smiled softly through the phone. "Then let me keep doing that." A week later, Grace showed up at the library with a donation envelope for the staff holiday fund. She didn't tell anyone it was from her. Inside was enough money to cover Daniel's overdue rent. When he found out, he tried to return it, but she refused. "You spent your last $10 to bring me a flower," she said. "Let me give something back." Tears filled his eyes. He realized then, love isn't about what you have. It's about what you give, even when you have nothing left. Months later, on the anniversary of their first date, Daniel invited Grace to the same cafe. When she arrived, he placed a small box on the table in front of her. "What's this?" she asked, smiling curiously. He took her hands in his. "Just something small." She opened it slowly. Inside was a delicate pendant shaped like a white rose. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "But why a rose?" he smiled. "Because that was the day I realized love doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be real." Grace smiled, tears slipping down her cheeks. "And you, Daniel, are real." She reached out, touching his face again like she did that first night. "I may never see your face," she whispered, "but I know it by heart." He leaned forward and kissed her gently, and somewhere between the falling snow outside and the soft music inside, two broken souls became whole again. That night, as they walked home together hand in hand, Grace whispered, "You know what I think?" "What's that?" Daniel asked. "That sometimes losing sight helps you truly see," Daniel smiled. "And sometimes